Welcome everybody. Thank you for everyone that tuned in last week. Got a lot of good responses from the discussion we had last week, and we definitely hope to get the same in return. Everybody take a moment that's up here, go ahead and share it. Share every doggone word that you can, and we're gonna kind of take off from there. So last week, um, we talked about the book "Can I Be the Man?" A letter from us to you. I talked about the poem that that it actually came from. So this week we're gonna start off, and if y'all don't mind or whatnot, I'm gonna do the poem for everybody. All right. So name of the poem is
Your audio.
my audio is messed up. Can everybody hear me?
It's just going in and out a little bit. Y'all,
Clear on my end.
it's
Anybody else is it going out in and out of?
No. No, I can hear you straight through.
All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and perform this joint. Y'all forgive me. It's been a little minute, but I'm about to have fun with it. All right. Name of the poem. Same name as the book. Can I be the man? Ladies and fellas, if you agree, I just want to know if I can be the man. Yes, it's understood that you stepped in when I had no plans. And I'm not asking that my every wish be your command. I just simply want to know if I can be the man. And I know, Karen White said it best. You are not my superwoman. Well, I'm not Prince Charming or Superman. I may not have the world yet, but I do have what you need. And if we encourage each other, we can share the benefits when we succeed. Now, I heard you the other night when you was on the phone with your girlfriend talking about how I run from the word job, but let me say be submissive and let's watch how fast you flee when all I really want is for you to follow me and not from that distance way back there. Because on my side is where I need you to be. And contrary to popular belief, I know your worth. See, because I might be able to plant the seed, but I need you to give birth. And this is with everything. See, because I might have the motivation and the means, but I need you to give birth to the dream. And for the life of me, I really would never understand how I can listen when you want to complain, embrace my guilt and my shame, run out to see if I can make a change just for you to be mad because I didn't feel the same. Really? I can tell you that I love you. I love you just the way you are. But that's not good enough. You just had to listen to that video vixen and movie star when I love you, despite the bad hair days and the morning breath, and take that makeup off because I love what's left. You are not the only one. that wants and desires quality time. And no, I'm not just talking about sex, TV, and a Corona with lime. Can I hold you? Lay my head down in your lap and just talk? We can send the kids away and maybe just go out for a long walk. And the next thing I'm almost afraid to mention. But can you put Zane down and pay me some attention? Sex is not a punishment or a weapon. That's improper use. See, because I'm too old to be having wet dreams, but the reality of it is I got to let it loose. Now, I'm not trying to take you back to the days when y'all carried nothing but a mop and a broom. But what I am trying to say is that it's too much testosterone in this room. And I know you're a survivor and you're INDEPENDENT, independent. Yes, we know what that means. But at some point, we have to be interdependent. And I know exactly what it is that some of y'all are thinking and saying in your head right now. We don't understand. Yes, this is true. But as I try to understand you, I need the same in return too. See, because what's the point if I understand, yet you have no clue? And if I understood you completely, what would be the need of your girlfriend? I can't replace her. Because at the end of the day, when I go to pee, guess what? I'm still gonna stand. And this is with purpose, all a part of the Most High's plan. But the question still remains, fellas, help me if you know. Can I be the man? Oh, man. Appreciate y'all letting me take that moment. Oh, man. Oh, man. But so last week, I kind of jacked it up. I didn't give everybody an opportunity to introduce themselves or whatnot. If you don't know who I am by now, the name is King Naib Yasharala, aka King Naib, author of "Can I Be the Man?" A letter from us to you. Just having fun with this thing, man. It's conversations that needs to be had. And we just gonna go from there. All right. So I'm gonna go based off of what I see on my screen. Lee, you right next to me. So go ahead, introduce yourself, and then D, you follow him. Let's go. You on mute, brother.
All right. All right. My name is Lee, and I'm 39 years old. I like long walks on the beach. No, but I'm a husband. I'm a father. I have 4 daughters. So for me as a man, it's important for me to make sure that I'm doing the right things by example and not just talk. I think your actions give you the ability to be able to say what you want done and accomplished. So I think that's important. So I'm just up here trying to understand, even though I'm in a situation that's what you would consider healthy. My concern is for my brethren, because if we don't it's just been going on too long. And so my purpose and my reason and my passion for being here is I want to make sure that I can see that that in general, everything's for us as men, and what works for us as our women too. So um, that's it.
All right. To introduce myself, I'm D. You know, Fennell Sutton. I'm not gonna tell my age. I like long walks on the beach. But I'm gonna make mine simple. I just in order to want to see change, you got to be the change. So that's why I'm here today. Once again, Chris is on you.
All right, so I'm Chris from South Carolina, 34 years old. I am a student of music, studied at Norfolk State and production at Full Sail University. Also an Army vet, retired, and a preacher's kid. So that's a bit of my background. Sentiments are pretty much the same as the brethren, looking to find some balance.
All righty. All right, so you already know what it is. We about to get into the thick of things. If you viewing right now, make sure you like and go ahead and share this, and so that everybody will have the opportunity to be able to hear and see exactly what it is that's going on right now. Outside of that, we're gonna go ahead and deep dive into this thing. So, like I said, we got a lot of good feedback from the discussion that we had last week. Literally, um, for those of y'all that watched it live, we went an extra 2 hours, like after the joint was over. So I should have just kept it going. But even after that, we ended up getting on the phone a little bit later or whatnot with another young lady. What was her name, D?
Chanel.
Chanel or whatnot, which we're going to invite her out in the next couple of weeks, along with one or two other females. That way we can start having this this conversation. We start this conversation up between men and women, and we can start opening up the door to put an end to this cold war that's been going on between us for like way too long. But you know, a lot has been said over the last week. I'm not going to deep dive. I'm going to let my brothers um, take a moment to basically express whatever it is that's on their heart, and we're gonna deep dive from there. All right, who want to go first? Oh man, nobody has
I'll go
anything.
first.
No,
I'll go first. My first question, I already know that there's no real definitive answer, but I'm gonna ask this question anyway. What moment in history did we decide as a people that the mother's role was more important than the father?
Anybody want to answer that? Or y'all want me to jump on it?
I'll answer that. And I think anytime that there is an issue, I always want to go to what the root is. And I feel like the root of the answer to that question is Willie Lynch. So, in essence, you know, they took the strongest and best men that we had and they mutilated them, castrated them, you know, burned them, and made them out to be examples. And it was, in my opinion, reading back on it, it was sort of like a PTSD moment that began for our women and our children. And obviously, in sales, you know that to get someone emotional is the best opportunity to get them to make sales. That's sales psychology. And so Willie Lynch, he understood this, and it put the women in a position to be the negotiators. And women, the difference between uh, a full-grown woman and a full-grown man is that men don't filter their thought process through emotions. And a full-grown woman, she is going to typically filter her thought process through emotions. And emotions will have you thinking about what's best for today, but it won't have you thinking about what's best for tomorrow per se. And so when that happened, the women taught their young boys at that point how to survive, not to fight back for what you believe, which was something that's in a full masculine man DNA, to fight back for what they believe and their ideals. And so when they made those things happen, that was the birth of it. And then there's different stages that have happened where I believe in the 20s, it was the welfare system that came about, and benefits. And then when you're talking about the 60s and the civil rights, and the feminist movement, um, white people were having different problems than black people were having. So when in our community, we never really had the black man and the white man really going against, I mean, the black man and the black woman really going against each other. But I think when the white women who were oppressed by their white men, they pulled black women into their struggle. And it became problematic, especially when benefits like food benefits, housing benefits, and things of that nature came about. So many things over the years have taught us to have suppressed us as a black community. But obviously, when the option came available that a woman, maybe it's not a lot, but when a woman could consistently count on a benefit being available to them each and every month, when you had men who were going in and out of jobs and things of that nature coming about, women took the option to kick the black man out of the house, and it emboldened them and it empowered them. And so that's why you see things like Mother's Day. No men are celebrated on Mother's Day, but on Father's Day, men have to slide over and celebrate those things, celebrate with women that are raising their children by themselves, whether albeit, you know, voluntarily or involuntarily. And this is how, in the evolution and going back to those days, and how women have been put to the forefront and men have been, taking a back seat to everything that's going on in the black household.
I agree that it has been systematically done over a period of time. I don't think that you can um, pinpoint one specific time frame or moment in which things got to this particular point. I do think that it has been a snowball effect. That's how I'm going to put it. And I really think that we don't take the time to kind of understand, what I'm saying, each other side to it. Because although that choice was made, especially as far as government assistance and things of that particular nature, or whatnot, there was more to it that actually came along. You can go back to literally, at the beginning, very beginning of slavery, when the first slaves were actually captured. Our job as men, what I'm saying, is written. Everybody knows, you don't even have to say it. Our job is to provide and to protect. Although it goes way further than that, our job is, everyone knows across the board, I don't care what nationality you are, anything of that particular nature, the job of the man is to provide and to protect. And in the midst of This was war. However you want to look at it, it was war. And we fail in essence in protecting our families. Um, and the reality of it is that in this failure, it opened up the door for basically the ones that were actually oppressing us um, become like that father figure, that husband figure, or not. And that's what happened. And I'm talking about long before doggone, long before, that decision to literally move us up out. It was psychological, and it was passed down from generation to generation to generation. You have to understand and try and see it from their standpoint. You know what I'm saying? They sitting back watching their men being mutilated, oppressed, raped, and everything else, and we the ones that's supposed to be protecting them. So I say it all the time. I don't understand how a man that can't protect himself can protect his family. In that particular point, we couldn't protect ourselves at all, and even when we did get the courage to stand up and fight, because don't get it twisted or whatnot, it was a lot of revolt during that particular time, and a lot of them were successful. But for the ones that weren't or whatnot, it made an impact. Then here it is, fast forward 200 some odd years later, you know what I'm saying? We quote unquote supposed to be free. And we still, you know what I'm saying? We still having to go through some form of oppression or not, walking on eggshells. Our women in fear. Even though we land right next to them, they in fear because they never know. Any period point in time, a press can run up in our crib and nothing can be done about it, or nothing was done. And it's really no different than what it is today. No different than what it is today. Men, you know what I'm saying? We don't have an issue with fighting amongst each other, shooting each other and everything else or whatnot, but we allow the authority to come up in our community and do whatever it is that they doggone want.
That's a fact.
And nothing is doggone said. We'll pick up some doggone sticks and march along beside them, but we won't pick up no sticks and defend our doggone communities. So I said all that to say that it's been systematic, and we haven't given them a reason to not be in that role. We're supposed to be the head, we'll be the leaders and things of that particular nature, whatnot. We got to do our due diligence. We got to do our part. So, I mean, like I said, I get it. There's wrong to be done on both ends. Ladies need to understand, what I'm saying, the psyche of what was going through men's minds and thoughts, what I'm saying, during that time, and even during this particular time, knowing that you're powerless to literally be able to do anything to provide and protect. These are the two things that it is that, like I said, no matter what culture you come from, nationality, that particular nature, these are the two solid things by nature that we are supposed to do, that we have been failing at as a collective. I'm not talking about individually. You got some on an individual level that doing what they're supposed to or whatnot, but as a collective, we've been missing the mark. We've been missing the mark. But I'm gonna jump off my bandwagon and let somebody else go. Who got it? Go ahead, Chris.
I'm gonna try to keep all of my comments as short as possible today. I think I'm gonna be more responsive than initiative. It was interesting, and I kind of like where Lee started off at, because oftentimes people want to start off with anything around the 60s or civil rights or anything like that, because we understand how it happens systemically, but at the same time, a lot of people dodge the roots. And a lot of that was based off what Lee and I was saying. It literally started with everything that happened from slavery, because the biggest way to win is through psychological warfare. And you have to break a person down before you can change and refashion something into something new. A lot of stuff was lost. A lot of respect was lost from the woman and the children, because like was mentioned is the man was emasculated. He was made a public spectacle of sorts in the most demeaning way. Everything from ripping them away from the families and separating them, forcing your role as massa over this man, showing that you're more dominant in front of those that are his kids or his wife or whatever. It destroyed the makeup of the family unit outside of just ripping them apart. So that was the biggest that was the biggest thing that could happen to affect our family structure. And because of that, I feel that is where most of the focus should be, because right now, if you fast forward from that point to where people like to start, now they understand, okay, we get what it is and why it is, but we just didn't look at the starting point. We looked at how stuff has happened in more recent history than past history. So we see that the man doesn't really have any power at this point, but we don't look at when did he start losing his power? When was it first taken from him? Because it was at that point that you set the stage. You created this mindset that this man can't do nothing for me. He's nothing. There's a more powerful force. Now that that's established, let me enter in and show that I'm going to be the best person to protect you and provide for you, out of the element of fear. So now this guy, Massa, or anyone else that was domineering or dominant can now say, well, this man can't do nothing for you. You lose all hope in this man. Now you're looking like, well, even though I don't like the situation I'm in, I got to trust this system, this person, in order to be able to make it. And like we were talking about in the last conversation after we got off live, that was a big stomp, crushing of our foundation, because at that point is now everything that we offer you, you're going to take it because you see that we are the greatest benefactor. You're the greatest benefactor off of us, because now we can give you government assistance. We can give you your own housing. We can get you food and clothing and all this other support that you need. You just don't need this man. Now, I won't say that that's solely for women, but it is very slim where you find any men that get those benefits. I know a few, but at the same time, most men don't want that because they want to make their own. But I digress and go back. But that set a big foundation to where we are right now. Destroying how the man is viewed, then putting yourself in his role, and then carrying it along, while at the same time keeping that man in that place from in different types of ways with different types of systems, whether it be by imprisoning them. As long as you can keep them separated and keep the woman's mind on, I can get you where you need to be, you have success.
Yeah, and I just wanted to piggyback on what you were saying here, Christopher, because when you talk about not knowing the origins, I mean, this is a classic case of eyes wide shut, because the best place to hide something is right under your nose. And what's happened over the course of history is you've seen there has been a great marketing strategy where trillions of dollars over the course of time have been put into masking the truth and giving us his story. Okay, not our story, not the story, which is more important than just our story, but if you don't understand why things transpire the way that they transpire, then you certainly don't understand the inner workings of what's going on at the particular time. I had my niece one time, she called me and she was having trouble in a particular class. I didn't know anything about the particular class she was calling me for, but she called me for it. But the concepts are the same in terms of the origins. When you're studying something, understanding what keywords are that you're going to be reviewing in the chapter. You were in school when you were about to start a chapter, like let's just say you were doing math and you were there were some new key terms that was given, and it would be right there in front of you. And before you could move on through the chapter, you had to understand what those key terms were, because everything was going to seem like gibberish. And I think that is what's happening today. So many people see everything that's going on, but they don't understand the key terms and the key breakdowns of how it went for men and women, respectively. And what you'll end up finding is people are reading the story and they're not reading with understanding. They're not able to process the information that's going on or whatever the case may be. And that's why when we start talking about, we can go back even further than all a person has to simply ask themselves is, for Black people in particular, when was it in time where we were doing our best? That means from a economic standpoint, physical, mental, spiritual, emotional, educational. When were we doing the best during our times? And going back and studying those times. But it's like they keep us in a vacuum of thinking our history is 400 years and that's all that there is. And then that's the problem. And nobody has a passion or an interest in trying to find out, what were we 500 years ago? What were we 1,000 years ago? What were we 2,000 years ago? Because we were not in slavery. We were not in this type of slavery 400 years ago. And I know there was a slavery that preceded that slavery when you're talking about the Arab slave trade, but we didn't come here on this earth and boom, we're slaves. Something happened. You know, the Mansa Musas of the world, they were not going through what we were going through, and they were thriving. We had dynasties, we had so many different things. We have a beautiful and rich history that for some strange reason the propaganda machine has shrunk us into this 400-year vacuum. And as long as we shrink ourselves, even when I started with the 400-year vacuum, so I apologize for that, just starting with Willie Lynch, it goes deeper than that. But when we shrink ourselves to there, then we don't even understand how we got there and some of the critical mistakes that we made. In the book, it talks about how we let our women get raped, we let our women get pillaged, we let our children be taken from us, and we were pretty much just doing nothing about it. Um, and in that time, you know, if we can't have our wives and our children, that time and this time, if we can't have our wives and our children, then what is the real purpose of living? Because in Ecclesiastes, just for the Bible readers, in Ecclesiastes, King Solomon talked about, because he's the author of that book, he talked about all of the things, all of the ravines he built, the women's service, the men's service. He talked about all of that, but he all summed it up to, it's just the chasing of the wind. And so because it's a chasing of the wind, it tells you how meaningless the things that we're chasing today, there really are. And the core essence of existence and living on the face of this earth is your spouse and your children. And we lost conscious of that. And they took that from us because we didn't understand the core essence of how that is the center of it all, the head and the backbone. We lost consciousness of in order for us to stand and in order for us to accomplish something, the head and the backbone need to be connected appropriately, and it needs to flow and it needs to work in that manner. And when I look back on the 60s or whatever the case may be, people like Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, they were propped up by Black families. They were propped up by Black families. And you can obviously see we haven't seen a Martin Luther King since. We haven't seen a Malcolm X since. And anytime somebody...
All righty. So
Okay, can you hear me?
Walmart connection.
yeah, we can hear you now. We can hear you now. Go ahead, finish that
Okay,
point.
I'm sorry. So yeah, so anytime that we can have a situation where we stand together and we economically work our way, uh, uh, get our economics in order. There is no surefire thing to that. Okay, there's no surefire thing to anything. But what they've done is they've said, okay, ladies, this is how much money that you can get every month. Okay, don't get any more than that. Don't move anybody in. Don't have relationships with your husbands. Don't have relationship with any. Don't you move anybody in, or you're gonna get these benefits taken away. And going back to the provision and the protection of, that's what women are seeking: provision and protection. They're looking at it and saying, this might not be a lot over here, but this is a surefire thing. Okay, even though the government never gave a darn about us, but by the same token, they would get more out of the deal if they, along with the men, us, come together and say, look, let's put together a sound economic plan, and let's stop trying to go and trying to work for somebody else that doesn't love and care for us. And let's make a lifetime commitment to depend on each other, win, lose, or draw. Let's have it like that, because if we're going to go out, let's go out guns blazing. Let's go out believing in each other. Let's go out in the infrastructure that has worked for us for thousands of years, that has been erased from us, because we live in an informational age right now where if you don't know something, it's because you don't want to know. So that's all I'm going to say about that.
So, we have a lot of platforms like this that, talk about the issue, right? But I don't want this to be like that. So let's talk solutions. I'm gonna start with you first, D. What's the solution? How do we rectify this as men?
As a man first, I'm like, for the fathers, you got to be proactive in your children's lives. You got to do, regardless on if you and the mother are not together, you got to do what's best. Like, it's not about you. It's not about her feelings. You got to figure out how can y'all get on the same page and co-parent. It's just as simple as that. Stop pointing the finger. Stop playing the blame game. Don't worry about how much child support you spending or whatever. Do everything that's in your power to be your father to your child. That's step number one. I mean, it's a whole lot easier said than done, but it's step number one.
All right. Chris, what's step number two?
I'd say the greatest part will always be knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. You need to know what's needed to do stuff. I mean, that's the knowledge. Wisdom is actually putting that knowledge to work. Understanding is self-explanatory. But the biggest problem that I see right now is we haven't learned self-discipline. And the world has the biggest advantage because we're reactive. We react to ourselves or each other negatively. Look at how men interact. The only way men really react positively is with those that they're familiar with. Anything strange is always a warning sign, and the slightest thing, whether it be a look, an act, or a word, will set men off. And we don't have enough men that sitting here like, hey.
We have a problem.
and that's our biggest problem. We don't know how to interact because we don't have self-discipline. We're not only negatively reactive to ourselves, but to our women, to our children, to everybody that doesn't look like us. We overreact and react in a way that we give people fuel to keep us in a state of bondage, marking time. So until we learn how to act as a proper human being in nature, we're going to constantly fail.
I.e., get out your emotions. Get out your emotions. Well, we got
that. What you just said says a lot because we're not emotional creatures. We're supposed to be the most logical, but we fall into those emotions, and that's a female trait. There's nothing wrong with having somebody that's emotional because The thing is, a man thinks logically, so he's able to plan. He doesn't even have to put too much of a plan together. He can have an end game. He discusses that plan with his woman. His woman can show him or advise him, be an advisory to him, show him how this can work in other aspects that he doesn't look at, because that emotional aspect changes the way you look at something. Just like if you look at with Moses and God, a man is going to look at it logically and what's right, what's nature. If you're out of that, you're wrong. But that woman gives grace to a lot of things that man creates.
So Chris, can I say something?
Go ahead, brother.
All right. So Chris, I love what you just said. My question to you is, well, so in summary, are you saying that men kind of see things in the big picture kind of format, and women see things in the kind of detail format, and that's why they work together, because she can help him see some things that he may be overlooking?
Yeah, in a sense, yeah, that's pretty much exactly where it's at. I know there's a lot that can be added to that realm, but that's the gist of it.
All right, well, I'm gonna add this. I'm gonna segue into this topic because you just said something about men are not supposed to be emotional. So Ron and I, we were talking, I believe yesterday or the day before, and you said you did not want to talk about it because this is a real hot topic. Why do men call Russell Wilson a simp for showing his emotions for his wife? I don't understand that.
Oh, goodness.
And while I place that question on the table, the bigger question is, what's the difference between an alpha male and a beta male?
Okay. I'm gonna address that question, and I'm gonna go first. I'm gonna go first. The alpha and the beta. The reason I want to, because I get tired of hearing men talk about alphas and betas. I really do. It irritates my soul. So when I think of alpha, right? When you look at nature, right? For me, nature is the platform that the Most High has given us to learn from and reflect from whenever we stray a little bit too far, right? So when you look at nature, you think about the wolf. The wolf has the alpha. You have the lion. You have the gorilla. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of species within nature that has alphas, or basically a head, right? So the responsibility of that alpha is not just solely and completely for his immediate family, right? It's for the entire collective, the entire collective. So for me, right, when we start talking about alpha males and things of that particular nature, the first thing that I'm going to look at is, what is he doing to provide, protect, and care for the community as a whole? If you're not doing that, you're only solely taking care of your household, I'm sorry to say it, I'm looking to the camera, I'm sorry to say it, but you're not an alpha. If your sole responsibility is nothing but your household, take the alpha male out of your mouth. Because nature says you're wrong. You don't think, if you think I'm lying, go research the wolf, go research the lion, go research the, the gorilla and all the other species out there that has a actual alpha, and look at how the alpha operates. I don't care about all this, oh, I'm rough and tough, and oh, when I walk into a room, I command respect. No, not at all. Even when it comes down to actually being a man, if you walk around your house, I'm the man, beating on your chest all the time, really, you don't run shit. You got to say it.
Real man don't have to say it.
That's literally what it boils down to. And the thing about it is there's nothing wrong with not being one. It's just not. You think within those actual species, communities, the communities within those species, that there are not other uh, male animals that could actually do the job of the alpha? There's plenty of them. Plenty of them. Especially when you look at the wolf, because the alpha, the alpha is at the back of the pack when they moving. But we have the thought process that the alpha is always in the front. You got the alpha in the back. You got in the center of it, you have some of the strongest wolves within it. And then at the very front, you got another strong one that's actually leading the doggone pack.
Tripping me out over here.
It's crazy. When you said that, the wolf was the one that stood out the most, and it was just because what you just explained. Because the way that they move and their setup when they're moving as a pack is perfect. And the point you made before that is the most important, because I was thinking about that myself. Because a lot of people, when they say an alpha male, they want all the perks but not the responsibility.
Yep.
And that's the biggest problem. And what you were saying at the beginning was the one that stood out the most, because my thing is with differentiating the alpha and the beta is that selfish nature that comes with the beta mentality. Because literally that alpha is not just yourself. It's not just your house. It's everything. And there can be many alphas because there can be many packs, but they all do different things in their territories.
Yep.
And you need those betas because those betas, they're not weak. They have strength. They just have a different role.
Yep. That's it.
But people, they don't get it. Everybody wants to be an alpha. And half of them just want it for the perks. They just want to be able to say that they're alpha. Yeah. And they're not.
Yep. And the reason why the alpha is at the back, you want to know why? So nobody's left behind. So nobody's left behind. But we have people out here that's alphas that claim to be alphas or whatnot, things of that particular nature or whatnot, and have the ability to ensure that no one is left behind and they do nothing. Mm-hmm. Nothing. And that's the selfishness. I'm not just talking about within as our culture and community as a whole. I'm talking about specifically to our men. That's the selfishness of where we at right now, which is part of the reason why you hear so many people call Russell Williams a simp. For real. I'm so serious. I'm so serious. If you're taking care of another man's baby, you're a simp. You love your woman too much, you're a simp. Now, granted, I'm gonna keep it 100. I've been trying to stay away from this topic for I don't know how long. I didn't want to talk about it today, but it's fine. I'm not gonna say that I agree with everything it is that this joker do. I really don't. The statement about the thing that he fears the most is losing Sierra in essence. To me, that's loaded. It's loaded, and the reason why I say it's loaded because to me it calls into question your ability to lead, and that's not to say that being insensitive or anything of that particular nature. You're not. That is a big fear of mine, but I can't say it's the greatest fear. And the reason why I say that is because if that's what it is that I'm always afraid of, right, that's going to play a big role or a big part in how I make decisions for my household, how I move and shape my household, right? And so if I'm constantly worried about whether if this is gonna make her upset, if this is gonna make her leave or whatnot, then that means that guess what? Every decision I make in essence is her decision. Because if I make a decision that she don't agree with, guess what? If I feel like if I'm too afraid that she's gonna leave me, then I'm gonna back out of what I might know to be the right thing to do. So I understand what it is he's saying and sentiments that he's putting forth or whatnot, and I have no issue with it. You know what I'm saying? And for me, it's a beautiful thing to love your wife in that manner. I love my wife in the exact same manner, but I can't, being the type of man that I am, I can't that's not the only focus. That's not the only fear, or whatnot. Because ultimately the reality of it is, guess what? I'm gonna die. My wife gonna die. So at some period point in time, I have to prepare myself that she might not always be here with me. So um it's just a reality standpoint. You never know, what I'm saying, what might happen, type of deal. So you got to be conscious of things of that particular nature and ensure that you have the ability to be able to mitigate those fears. Because we got several fears, several. But I'm gonna jump off my horse. Somebody else can talk about the whole alpha beta and Russell Williams situation, or whatnot. We gonna fight,
So,
D, when I see you.
okay, so I got a question.
All right.
I love how you use nature to describe things, okay? Because it really gives a perspective because you can't argue against facts. Now, there's a spiritual component to this living, but there's also a natural component to this living. And a lot of times I see when it comes to like religion and things of that nature, people forget the natural component of things and they want to make everything totally about the spiritual component, but it's a healthy balance. It should be a healthy balance. Um, you know, so just because when we talk about the wolves, right? Just because that there's an alpha, just sitting here, just listening to your analogy of that, just because you got, let's just say, I don't know, let's just say you got like 5 male wolves and one of them is the alpha wolf. Does that necessarily mean that the other wolves are betas? Why do they have to by default fall into betas? Is a question that I have.
Let's see. One thing that I do know, right, is this, right? Where there are a lot of or a lot of heads, there's always confusion. Always confusion. Now, if we talking about on the scale of like Chris was saying, as far as communities, you're the alpha of your one community, and then you have another that's the alpha of their particular community, or not. There's nothing wrong with that at all. Why there has to be a distinction? Um, be honest with you, I really believe it comes down to a respect factor. You know, and for me, I might be the alpha in one area, right? Let's just say, what shit? Let's just use what can I use? Writing, since that's what I do. Another one is an alpha in doggone finance, so forth and so on, or whatnot. To me, it comes down to common agreement. But at the end of the day, it's about what it is that you're doing for the collective whole. For the collective whole. Could could a lot of people don't know some of the speeches that Martin Luther King spoke was written by somebody else. Right? But there was common agreement that he was the best man for the position that he was about to take. And it was literally down to common agreement. Common agreement. But you still have to be able to play that role at the end of the day. So for me, there's nothing wrong with being a beta. My issue is, like I said before, you have a lot of people claiming and professing being alphas and ain't doing a goddamn thing for our community. And quite frankly, during this day and age, how our communities look,
Ain't no alphas.
yeah, that's what I was about to say. It ain't none. And if you are, and our communities are the way they look right now, you're not doing that good of a job. We need to, whatever the wolves or the gorillas or the lions, whatever they do, or not to get rid of that damn alpha. That's what we need to do, and bring in the next generation of them. So serious. The next.
Well, the caveat off of that, like honestly, there can only be one alpha because an alpha is distinguished in a particular group. Being a beta isn't really a negative connotation because a beta is only a subordinate in a group. That doesn't mean he's non-efficient or just worthless. A lot of the problem that we have today is that social media and all other media platforms have made beta to be something negative, but it's really not, because anybody at any given time can challenge an alpha for that role. And at the same time, it is what it is. There can only be one alpha in a particular group. A beta is a subordinate, not ineffective, but just subordinate. Just like you have a CEO, or look at the military structure. You have a battalion commander, you have a brigade commander, you have a division, so forth, so on. Each one of them are alphas at their levels. They're over a particular group. But if you look at the whole of everything, there's a top, even until you get to the commander in chief. So yes, there can be a whole. It kind of changes the way that we look at it, because we said it's alpha is for a particular group, but at the same time, you may be an alpha in your household. You might not be an alpha in your neighborhood, or in your city, or in your council, in your state. Being a beta is just being a subordinate. That doesn't mean that you don't have an alpha role where you stand. But at any given time, you can run for whatever office and become an alpha at a higher echelon. But I think the biggest thing is we got to get rid of this negative connotation that we have around the world that a beta is bad. They just have a lesser role.
So, Chris, maybe the issue is we're identifying a group of people inaccurately if we're basing this off of what nature teaches us. So when we're talking about, excuse my language, when we're talking about these fuck boys out here, these men that don't go out here and handle their business, take care of, their responsibilities and things of that nature, we want to typecast that as betas. But perhaps betas, that's not the category for them. I don't know what category we can put them in, but I'm looking at this definition here. So I'm looking at this definition right here online of what an alpha and a beta male, what an alpha personality and what a beta personality is. And it says it is one who exerts, alpha is one who exerts power and influence through their ability to take charge of the conversation, while the beta will tend to listen and to support. In both extremes, the alpha may be too confrontational and the beta may be too passive. So men not handling their responsibilities or whatever the case may be, I wouldn't call them, based on the definition and based on what we're talking about, I wouldn't even call them betas anyway. Because if we're talking about, as Yanab said, if we're talking about men being betas and not feeling anything is wrong with it, it's nothing wrong with listening. It's nothing wrong with supporting. If, for an example, if we talk about buying back our communities, Bebop, okay? Shout out to Bebop. If we're
Word.
talking, if we're talking about buying back our communities, it's going to be too convoluted if everybody is aggressive and everybody's trying to exert power and influence over the situation. We need one person to exert the totalitarian, if you will, of power. And then we need to have men of wisdom, women of wisdom, that are playing roles within the organization to be able to listen. You know, it was my mother who used to tell me, that's why God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth, so you can shut up and do twice as much listening. Because it's very true. So when we really break it down, I think sometimes we take things and we run with it from surface. Just like the conversation we talked about women and men. This is good, by the way. But when we're talking about women and men, and we're talking about why we're having some of the problems that we're having, the problem really exists because we're taking things from the surface and we're running with them instead of taking the time to investigate the root of it, or using, and Naib, we had this conversation about in school learning critical thinking. Critical thinking. How many people are sitting back and thinking about, well, let's see, in the animal kingdom, which that's what we go by. Even if you want to be spiritual, right? Even if you want to be religious, right? When we start talking about the 12 tribes of Israel, we start talking. What is that reference to? It's reference to a lion. And what is Judah? The lion. Judah is the symbol is the lion, right? And so clearly, even in a spiritual sense, they counted on nature to make sense of things or to help project a reason about that. And you can't argue with what's happening in nature. I just think based on what you're saying, and I know you didn't want to bring this conversation up, but this is like way beyond juicier than what we'll talk about last week. And last week was juicy. But what I'm saying is we are giving the category of beta to the wrong set of people. I don't know. Maybe we should just go ahead and call them fuckboys, because they're not alpha and they're not beta. And yes, when we start talking about our community, really and truthfully, we don't have any betas or no alphas, because in order to have betas, you have to have an alpha given some type of instruction, direction, or lead. So I just think, like I said, I think it's very interesting that you said that, and you can't argue against facts. So nobody can sit up here and argue about nature. I think it was a safe element to go by, but it's a non-confrontational element for anybody with any kind of rationale. You can't go against what nature has taught us over the beginning of time.
For the beginning of time, it's what wrong sister saying on my live earlier. That's why I was laughing. In order to get respect, that was because they had hands. That's the same way that somebody that said earlier about nature or whatever. It's just as simple as a lot of them are deemed as betas, but they can't be to the time it's right. Now, to go on the other end of the spectrum, I remember that Ron said this a few days ago when we were talking. He said that me and my wife, we were talking, and our kids, they gonna be, that is the key component, man. You got to learn how to follow in order to lead. You don't just automatically be given that time. You got to, it has to be earned.
Yep, it definitely has to be earned or not. And I'm 100% with you. You have to know how to follow to effectively lead. Period. So, my question that I'm going to raise is, how do we start transitioning our men if we all going to go with the census that there are no alphas, there are no betas, right? How do we start transitioning the men within our culture to get to this alpha and beta point?
What I told you the other day about when you, myself, and Lamar was talking, and I said you got to learn how to walk in your truth, and that's the thing that a lot of people be walking on eggshells, and they don't want to tell the people closest in their circle. Nah, man, like, bro, you really messing up. You really need to be in your kids' life more. man, you know you could bring in more money than that, man. You know you could help around the house more than what you be doing. Like, come on, it's a whole lot of stuff we got to be willing to tell them. Either you get your feelings hurt, either the other person can be in their feelings and not want to talk to you for a while or whatever, but you got to tell people the truth. It's just as simple as that.
So what you're saying is we need to go ahead and go on, get in the ring and get slapped around a little bit first. And
physically. Sometimes, you know, I do both. It don't matter. But sometimes, man, it has to be done, man. You got to tell a person about themselves, man. Now, there's a way that it can be done. You got to use tech. That's what I'm saying. I've always said that if you really care about somebody, you're going to use tech. You ain't got to be just trying to, you know, like Kevin Samuels. A lot of people be having issues with the way he be talking to people. I'm like, you ain't got to be written back. But you got to make it be known. Put it on the table.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Definitely agree with that aspect of it or whatnot. It really boils down to, in essence, what we talked about last week. You know, we have to start holding each other and the men within our community accountability. You know, I'm gonna tell everyone, every man out there, start with your inner circle. Start with those that's closest to you, or not. Start holding them accountable. And your inner circle has an inner circle, or not. They need to start holding people accountable, or not, and it will grow from there. And in essence, we'll be helping everyone, or not, because that single mother out there that has some children that the father is not doing everything that should be done or could be done, or not. If we hold everybody accountable, eventually we'll get to the point where everybody is being reached and actually being held accountable, so that help will actually come. Now, what I will say is, ladies, we need you to do the exact same thing on the opposite end. Start holding each other accountable. Start holding each other accountable, because that's the only way that we gonna get to that particular point, or not, to where we can start mending this together. You know, but literally, I agree 100%. That's where it starts at. Accountability, and everything will actually grow from there. You know, because literally that's what it was back in the day.
I think what this book is about is about it's this apology to our women. And along with as long as what you said, D and your name, there has to be a time that we have to shut off the world and we have to turn up our senses about ourselves. And you mentioned it, D, about walking in your truth. I know some people don't like that word, your truth, but I know what you mean right there. Look, what is real is what is real. And I don't think that the crown of alpha or beta, if you will, is something that one can anoint on another person. I think that when a person is doing what they're supposed to do and living to their strengths and abilities and recognizing their weaknesses and going forth, nature will crown you what you're supposed to be crowned. Okay, it's sort of like, and I don't agree with all of this stuff with Darwinism, but we start talking about natural selection and everything like that. If you are the essence of who you are and understanding the abilities that you're not, if you can't sing, don't sing. You know what I'm saying? If you can't write, don't write. That's not your lane. If you just operate in the lane that you're supposed to operate in, then you can find yourself making sure that then what'll end up happening is there's going to be certain things that are attracted to you, and then you're just going to naturally be selected to be something. But just because you're not the head of the pack doesn't mean that your role isn't important. Okay, because it's really, you don't want convolution, because you want to make sure that you're getting the best results for yourself and those that are affected around you. Okay. So if we're talking about making an apology to our women and everything, we have to know what to apologize about. That's why I think this book is really good about reading, because it goes into great detail. Most people have taken this alpha and beta concept that's going on today and they have ran with it. And not too many people have taken the time to think about it from a natural sense, like Naib has thought about it. And when you start thinking about it in that natural sense, your whole process about what alpha and beta males do to change. I mean, right before my eyes, I'm sitting here and I'm saying, wow, that's a really accurate, refreshing look on what alpha really is and what beta is. And you have to be sick in your head to argue against what nature is already teaching us about what alpha and what beta really is. So in summary, I'm just saying that if we just concentrate and focus, I think the first step for us is to concentrate and focus on what we're good at, what we're not good at, where we made the mistakes, and then owning up to that. And then it does depend on a woman accepting our apology. And if a woman doesn't want to accept your apology, you move on until you find a woman that's going to be willing to accept the apology. And I'm not talking about something you personally did to her, but as a man, when you're selecting your mate or whatever the case may be, you have to be able to, you have to be with somebody that lines up with your energy. And so if your energy is here and you're talking to somebody's energy that's here or here, then you need to find somebody that's on your frequency. And you have to be selective in finding someone on your frequency. Okay. And a lot of times I think what happens is men and women in general, they will come across buttholes all the time. And then what they'll end up finding is, okay, this is the least buttholic, if you will, I'm trying to keep it G. This is the least buttholic person that I know, and I'm going to work with that. But it's just like the Most High has so much more for you, and you got to get out. And you gotta travel. You gotta move around. You gotta find somebody that's on your wavelength, somebody that's on your energetic level, so that you can be able to accomplish the agenda that you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, I agree.
To add to that, let's say something that was real personal to me and that hit home. I had a close female friend of mine. She told me, she said, we haven't spoken in over a month, like around Christmas. And so we spoke for like the first time last week or so. She said, you got just enough butthole in you to make me not want to speak to you. And I'm like, what? All because I'm telling you some stuff that you need to hear? You and your feelings about it? Like, come on, man. That's gonna be wild to me, man.
Oh man. That is hilarious.
Yeah, and I mean, I know everybody can identify with this at some point of time. I'm not gonna put any names out there, but y'all, Naib, you know her. You know somebody that I was friends with for years, right? And guess what? We were friends for 10, 15 years. And it was like I woke up one day and I said, wait a minute, man, the energy is off, because the only thing it is going on is it's just a one-way street. I'm valuable to her because I'm bringing something that is valuable to her to the table. But when I need something, I can't get it from her. So I identified that. And I think sometimes in our lives, we have to identify the relationships that we have. And it has to be some semblance of mutuality, a duality, the way we talked about it. You have to have relationships that at some point, it might not start out that way, but at some point it can get to a health standpoint of duality where, you know, if I need in something in general from you, I can come to you. When you need something in general from me, you can come to me. We understand that certain things and circumstances are going to cause the no to happen. But if the no's are way more than the yeses, or if I'm trying to give you something that is valuable to you because I love you, because love is not just a soft type of deal. Sometimes love is tough, and nobody has ever grown from soft love. Everybody grows from that. When I think about things that I've grown from, this the tough love that really, something that really smacked me and made me just say, you know what, that was uncomfortable as hell. But you know what is right? And that person, it probably took a lot from that person to tell me that, because the natural, well, not the natural, but the normal thing to do, if you will, is to tell people what they want to hear, because you still need access to what they can give you. And a real person is going to say, look, if the relationship has to stop here, just like you said, I fear losing my wife. It's not my overwhelming and prevailing fear. Okay, I've got other fears that are bigger than that, right? And that doesn't negate how important she is to me, but it's just like, if I make that my primal fear, then then I'm turning the decision process over to her by default, and I'm just the channel for her and her decision. So y'all kind of get where I'm going with that?
Yeah, yeah, I got you. I got you. Which, in essence, everything that's been said speaks to really the name of the book. Can I be the man? You know, when you think about it, why would we even need to ask that question? Why? And everything that we have talked about speaks to why it's actually necessary. Primarily because they have played our role for so long, or whatnot. It would be remiss for us to sit back and think that we can just kick them out of that role without having to prove ourselves. And in order to prove ourselves, everything it is that we're talking about now, it's going to take accountability. It's going to take accountability. You know, so this was great. This is great to me, for real. You know, well, I ain't gonna apologize because I'm not sorry. But if you are one of them individuals out there that feel and believe that you are alpha, show and prove. Show and prove. Get out there in your community and start making a difference.
I like when we use that word community because, like you were saying earlier, it starts with these smaller circles. The thing that I see is no matter where you go, it could be a group that you don't like. I've been around so many different groups of people around the world, and I've noticed there's no difference between your group and the next. They all have the same wisdom, they have the same camaraderie. Problem is, we interact terribly. The biggest thing that I think we need is bebop, because it's not just what we need to do, it's where we need to be set. That structure provides the environment that we need to be able to build. Because right now, we're fighting what we have to get pulled out of, along with fighting everything around us that's against us as a community. So honestly, it's a hard battle because we're fighting an uphill battle right now, trying to do what we know is right, while we got people uphill just tossing boulders at us, keeping us down. Our biggest struggle isn't even really ourselves, but the situations that we're in. And that lack of self-discipline and understanding is what's keeping us where we are, because we're stuck in survival mode.
Yeah.
But it's crazy.
Yeah. And for y'all that's wondering what bebop is or not, we'll say that discussion for another day. We'll get into it. But literally everything it is we do or whatnot is structured around that concept and getting to that particular point or whatnot. And it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. But we'll table that for another day. For another day.
Well, you could throw that plug in there. Go ahead.
No, I just know, man. We start talking about bebop, well, we'll be up here for a whole
Man.
2 hours. and then right from there, we'll go someplace else or whatnot. But
right.
But we definitely, if everybody's in agreement, I know we're gonna do this again next Friday. There's talks about doing this again tomorrow because we got a few other brothers that want to jump on the line. If y'all available, feel free to jump on. You gotta figure out exactly what time we're gonna do it. I'll make sure that I get with everybody and I post it. But we're down to the last 15 minutes. I'm gonna go ahead and give everybody an opportunity to give their closing remarks, and then either we'll be back together tomorrow or we'll be back together on Friday. Next Friday, we'll go from there. So who want to go first?
I'll go first. Keep it short and sweet. I enjoyed the conversation. I definitely will be rewatching. I didn't bring anything because I wanted to be a ear today. Really, I wanted to hear some stuff. Like when I see that I'm in the company of some well experienced individuals, gentlemen, women as well. If you have experience and some wisdom and you got something to share, I'm going to sit back and listen because I want to build. And I hope those that are listening to the calls are taking everything in with an unbiased ear and actually thinking of their answers to these questions and how they can put them into work. And that's what I hope to see. I hope to see some more engagement in the comments and as we spread this abroad. But I'm just looking forward to the next few calls because there's a lot to be said. And I think this is another great addition to what's going on in this community around this nation and internationally through all forms of media. So kudos.
Sure. All righty.
Well, I guess that's too much. All right, so I really want everybody to really take note about this call, and I think none of us thought that this conversation would turn into this today, but I just think that the Most High is moving, and I think where four are gathered, I mean, so is He. So I just really want you guys to really take and understand that, know your worth. Understand that just because it's something that you desire, but that it's someone that you desire, that someone doesn't desire you. If you're a single man or a woman, don't worry. Don't worry. Just work on and concentrate on being the very best version of yourself that you can be, so you can attract what you're supposed to attract. Especially ladies. Ladies, you're not supposed to be the hunter, so stop hunting. Okay, that's very masculine of you to be hunting in terms of when it comes to men. All you have to do is posture and position yourself. You have a whole different assignment. And the men out there, listen, we want you to say, I'm sorry. We want you to take accountability for what you're supposed to do. We want you to take accountability for what you have not done and what our ancestors have not done. And if it's a woman that doesn't want to hear the apology and don't want any part of it, don't tuck your tail between your legs. Just go on down the road of life until you find someone that can match your energy level, somebody that can match your vibration. And when you'll know it, you'll know it because you'll just know it. And when you are able to do that, that is going to be the best chance and the only chance that you're going to have to be able to build something,
All right, so the alpha male is going last.
Hey, all right.
But now, real talk though, there was a lot of stuff that leaders said that I wish I would have said myself, but it's actually a lot of stuff that I had to do some soul searching personally. And like you just said, we don't have to chase women. When you start working on yourselves and all this type of stuff, you meet somebody that's on your frequency. I wish there was a lot of stuff that I wish I would have learned to be the person that I am now. 10 years ago, I would be a whole lot further along in my life. Speaking to men, just learn to effectively communicate with your women, man. There's nothing wrong, like you said, there's nothing wrong with saying I'm sorry. But the bigger thing is understand what you're apologizing for. That's the biggest thing. That's the key. Wrong is on you.
All right. So I think this is a good start to us rebuilding the core foundation of the men within our community, within our culture as a whole. I look forward to the conversations to come, because even in the midst of everything that was said, I learned something about myself. I learned something about men in general that I can take and I can apply to myself. Yeah, excuse me. Somebody just knocked on my door, and I'm trying to keep it. I'm trying to keep it together. But I'm just happy. I'm just happy because I know that we got men out there that been waiting on this. You know what I'm saying? Been waiting on this, been wanting this, and just to be given the platform and the ability to be able to provide it is a blessing in itself. I encourage everybody start taking a look at nature because, in my opinion, um, this is the tool that the Most High has given us to be able to heal our culture as a whole. So I ain't gonna. I'm gonna try and keep it short. So I'm gonna stop it there. That and the fact that somebody is really on my door right now, so bring this joint to an end. But hey, if you don't already, make sure you follow me on Instagram at King King dot Naib Naib, and also follow me my page on Facebook. It's King Naib at King Naib or not. And this is just the beginning. Pre-orders coming soon or not. Make sure as soon as it drop, you go ahead put your order in. Go ahead put your order in or not because after everybody's had an opportunity to read this book, that's when the conversation really gonna start. All right. So, again, fellas, I appreciate y'all taking out the time and y'all busy schedule to be with me on this thing. Like I said, if you're available tomorrow, we're gonna do it tomorrow. I'll let y'all know exactly what time it's gonna actually be. And again, I love y'all and I appreciate it.
Hey man, love y'all too, man.
Sure. Sure.